Typically what we would do is get an inquiry and we would just locate one of those flags and show it in relation to that. If it's outside that approach path, historically we have brought everything to the airport authority so that they could at least have the information, if not a true approval. None of these would actually warrant an approval. Legally, there's nothing to approve. They are all outside the RPZ, outside the airport approach path, and not subject to that particular zoning ordinance there for the airport approach zone. What our recommendation is, since these have become so commonplace, according to a memo that Mr. Klassen had requested, AT&T is the one who's feeling the effects the most. Looking forward, they anticipate wireless to be in the hands of all of our 20-somethings. That be the screen of the future, not computer monitors and certainly not landlines. So they realize they're a little bit behind the curve along the South Mountains in particular. There's a lot of interest there. Anybody that's driven to Morganton realizes how quickly you lose a signal once you get around Cane Creek and beyond. That's not the only area. They've begun to explore Green Hill and some of our western Rutherford County area. So we do anticipate more of these. Our recommendation to you tonight is simply not to take you out of the loop, to continue to ask for the items. This also is in your packet. This is a list that Mr. Luther and I worked on a few years ago together to make sure that whether it's in the approach path or not, that the county has the proper documentation to make sure that FAA is informed, that towers eventually that are built get put into electronic database so that when you're using your Garmin and you're a pilot, it doesn't matter if you're in this RPZ, people fly up around the beautiful South Mountains as well. They want to make sure any low-lying air traffic there doesn't have an unfortunate meeting with a tower. So long story short, this checklist is things that we would ask to be provided. We have requested it in an electronic format. Often it still comes hard copy. What we'll do is we'll check that. If it's outside the RPZ, go ahead and get them moving along in the process, but continue to keep you as an airport authority board informed on those new towers and where they're going to be located, and especially share the FAA documentation with you. And field any questions that you might have. Just give you a chance to respond through Mr. Klassen or any other means. So I think the business tonight is a recommendation, as you can see, the things that are outside the RPZ, let county staff take care of, but still keep you in the loop as an informational opportunity. Any questions for me?
As far as the towers are concerned, those outside there have no effect on anything that we would have to do with it. It's just got to be inside our.
Right. There's really, what you're looking for is if it's inside of your airspace,
Right.
the tower package, they're supposed to do a 7460 document to the FAA regardless. The FAA is going to analyze that, they're going to look at height above ground, the elevation of the ground, the height of the tower and so forth. With being outside of that, they're probably not going to do anything. If they did, they would inform the tower folks that, okay, it is a hazard, you got to do something to it, you got to light it, you got to mark it and so forth. That becomes more prevalent once it's inside of that cone.
Right.
Even if it happened to be inside of that cone, I'm not sure where the county stands on being able to approve or disapprove.
If it's outside the cone because of there is no single communication tower ordinance in the county, obviously we're still unzoned and unincorporated Rutherford County. Those that fall within the ETJ or another jurisdiction, we would actually defer to that planner, the town planner, to be able to review and walk them through the process there.
What happens if it's inside then?
If it's inside the RPZ, then it comes to the airport authority for approval. At that point, what I would be glad to do, if it's okay with Mr. Luther, even those other requests that's outside, just if nothing else for GWIS information, to kind of put it in front of him. If he has concerns, it's outside of the RPZ, it does not warrant the approval of this authority. However, there may be something worth discussing or making you aware of.
Okay, great.
Anytime it's in the RPZ, they will not get a written approval from the planning staff. It would come before you. You guys would be able to review the plans with Mr. Luther and discuss any height concerns depending upon which zone it falls in, because as this gets further away from the runway, obviously the height limitation changes depending upon which area it falls in. So then a true written approval would come from this authority.
Okay. Any questions for Danny or Mr. Luther on this? There are no, thank you, Danny. Appreciate it,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, what you're seeking is action by the board that would follow along Danny's discussion, that towers in Rutherford, proposed to be constructed in Rutherford County, will be reviewed by staff and as appropriate reviewed by the FAA. They would not come before this board for approval unless the tower was inside the RPZ. So that those towers up in Golden Valley and elsewhere and things like that they would still get the review by the staff, but they wouldn't potentially come before this board unless they were proposed to move in the RPZ. And that's what our recommendation is.
So you need a motion to go ahead and allow that to happen?
We would ask for that as a policy of the board.
Can I have a motion on that? So. Motion is second. Any other discussion and questions for Mr. Trice and Danny on this? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, Danny, let's go forward with what you brought here. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all very much. Mr. Johnson, this is American Tower. Pat, didn't know if you might like to hear any comments from him tonight. That'd be out of order.
Yeah, I came out, I'm Pat Sarsfield, I'm with a law firm in Charlotte, Nexon Pruitt. I actually was out here, I guess, back over the summer, and we represent American Tower. And we'd sent a letter to Danny. I think there had been some inquiry about the sudden, or the more recent increase in the number of towers. AT&T and perhaps other carriers as well. I don't deal with them, so I can't speak to that specifically, but there's a lot of big gaps in coverage, and with people using smartphones and laptops and such more and more, it requires more transmitters to give what we call a seamless coverage, so that you don't drop that call when you're having business communication or talking to somebody else, and can get good reception pretty much wherever you go. And that's why there's been this big upswing more recently in the number of towers, and it's going along all across the state of North Carolina, and I suspect in other parts of the nation as well, but we just deal with the North Carolina ones. And as Danny had said, we come out and we obviously always are willing to come out to answer any questions or try to help work with y'all to address any concerns you have. And I was not aware that Danny was not getting these documents electronically, but we will remedy that so that they can then be sent to y'all easily in an electronic format. And certainly, even if a tower is not technically within y'all's jurisdiction, if there are any questions or concerns, we certainly want to hear them. We do submit, my understanding is we submit all of our plans to the FAA because they have to go onto their database and they decide whether or not they have to be lit. So we comply with whatever requirements they have. And as far as a database that would keep y'all abreast of everything that's all the towers that are out there, I would suspect that the FAA database has that. I'm not certain, but I can find out and convey that information to Danny in case y'all had some purpose or need for it. But at any rate, we certainly are always happy to come out and talk with you if you do have a question, whether it's in your jurisdiction or even if it's not, or if you don't need us to come out to meet with you and you have questions, Danny, you can just have him forward them to us, and we're happy to do whatever we can, because obviously we want to have a good working relationship. And so again, even for things outside your territory, if you do have questions or concerns, please have Danny let us know, and we'll respond to you as soon as we can. So does anybody have any questions about any of that? Otherwise, okay, well thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chair, putting on your other tabs, to recall one of the items, well, the number one item in the goal setting session is to expand infrastructure. And one of those items is wireless telecommunications. Your action tonight is consistent with that because it makes it easier to move forward with those wireless towers.
Okay, the next item is hunting on the airport property.
I will tell you, this is a matter that came kind of to us and is a real need, and we heard about it even last night during the public input discussion about problems with deer on the airport. This is what was sent out previously to people who were interested. really just kind of get engaged, you'll see, there's all things you're supposed to follow NC game rules. I imagine they need to have a license, that means having a license, the appropriate license. Do not use high-powered rifles, and check with the airport manager, I'm gonna change that to airport operations manager, before hunting. So, beyond that, we wanted to make you aware of it. This is kind of there is no formal total policy. These two letters constitute whatever policy we have, in my knowledge.
You have to have a written permission from the landowner.
Well, you all, the landowner, that's what you're going to be
You
granted
would
here.
get this.
Yeah.
My question is there a procedure for game retrieval?
That's completely up to the people that's giving permission.
What would you like to have? I mean, look at the flip it
No,
around.
I mean,
Yeah, there is none right now.
so
We
you
certainly could.
shoot a deer on the backside over here, you just take a game cart and go across the runway to get it? Is that
Not across
acceptable?
the runway, but,
Yes, sir.
pretty much, yes, sir.
I'd put that in,
Okay.
We can.
that you don't cross the runway
Sure,
for
absolutely.
game
And
retrieval.
normally we haven't, up until this past year, we haven't really had any land.
You've
on
had
that side.
a long day, you probably go the shortest route to get it.
Mine's got a fence to get there.
Yeah, so,
Although that happened over on the bridge.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I've got something, I don't know if I reviewed this before or not, but I have something a little bit more detailed in terms of assumption of risk and the identification language that I'd like to insert in
Sure.
terms of this document itself.
Would that custom apply, Ms. Chris, to fill out over here? Is that the
What
plan?
we'll probably do is work a quick application, name, address, things like that, and then we'll, list of the rules, plus we'll have them sign the waiver issue, and then we'll just grant them a letter saying go for it.
There are two people actually that's interested in doing that currently. One has been recurring, he's been coming here for the past 9, 10 years. So once, that would be a question of mine, however, once permission is given, how long is that permission good for? Will they have to do that?
Through the season.
that season.
Should be just, say on an annual basis.
And what is the number of hunters that's acceptable at one time?
I've never heard of more than 2 here at once, at least.
Is that cause there's only 2?
Yeah, pretty much. Not too many people have known about it until.
Yeah, well, I got some friends, I'm gonna tell about this.
Is it probably wise to limit it to no more than 200 at a given time?
Yeah, because you get into a safety issue with the hunters.
I would think so. There's 288 acres here on the airport that the airport authority owns, but most of it is just runway flat.
Deer much problem, George?
In the last 25 years, we've had 3 confirmed deer strikes. My granddaughter did one of them. But,
Oh,
yeah, they're, go around, they're a danger hazard.
We've had 4 in the past 2 years that I know.
Yeah, something, it's better.
My wife being
It's
one
like
of
a
them.
morning hunt.
But only in a given morning I can count 1 dozen deer within an hour. The first arriving is the morning, especially.
We have had deprivation license here, where this game warden would let us have year-round, hunting year-round here. And they would do it if you just ask them. If you find it's a problem,
That's a safety hazard, I'm sure that they will.
If we get something that was done by USDA, which is the agency that does that, Neil Benny's been looking for that and we can't find our files, he's looking at his files, so. Well, we can go through this, the permission would be good for the season, not more than 2 at any one time. But you get a permit for either the morning or the afternoon hunt, we'll do the liability waiver, and we'll have something down about the procedure for, game retrieval, those are great. And we'll,
The hunt season doesn't start, so.
Most seasons in
I
there,
think it is.
and most of them just finished.
So they could work on it now, but that's. We need to have that put together. Do we need a motion on this, or just go ahead and do it for us?
If you would, we'd appreciate it, just because it helps us, just to basically direct the staff to implement a policy allowing for hunting on the property so long as they provide a copy of the homeowner's insurance policy. They follow NC game rules, including having the appropriate licensures. They do not use high-powered rifles. They check in with the airport operations manager before hunting, that the authority is good through the existing season, that no more than 2 hunters would be allowed at any one time during either a morning or an afternoon hunt, and they'd have to, prior to hunting, they have to execute a liability waiver, and then also we have a procedure for game retrieval, and that they can't cross runways or active taxiways or
Does
something.
yours have much more than that on there, do you think?
I just wanted to,
The
to
liability.
solidify that liability language a little bit, and I do have something I can provide to Paul
Okay.
from another